Do you remember the last time you got a raise? I want you to actually think about it. Not the number. The feeling. The moment your manager said the words, or you opened the email, or you saw the new figure on your offer letter. There was a rush. A lift in your chest. A feeling like the ground beneath you had just become a little more solid. You probably did the math immediately. You calculated what the new number meant per month after taxes. You thought about what it would change. Maybe you could finally stop checking your bank account every morning. Maybe you could go to a restaurant without looking at prices. Maybe you could breathe, and for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, you did breathe. The tightness loosened. The background hum of financial anxiety dropped a few decibels. You felt like you had climbed to a new elevation and the air up here was cleaner. Then something happened, or more accurately, nothing happened. The raise did not disappear. The money was still there. Your paycheck was still larger than it used to be. But the feeling was gone. The relief evaporated. The breathing room you thought you had purchased with that raise somehow shrank back to exactly the size it was before. You started noticing things. The apartment that felt fine 3 months ago now felt small. The car that was perfectly acceptable now seemed old. Restaurants felt ordinary. You found yourself eyeing the places one tier above. Your expenses crept upward in ways you cannot fully trace. Not dramatically. Not recklessly. Just a slightly better grocery store. A slightly nicer pair of shoes. A streaming service you added without thinking. A subscription you forgot to cancel. A coffee order that gained an extra word somewhere along the way. None of it felt like a decision. All of it felt like gravity. And now here you are, making more money than you made a year ago. Objectively, measurably, provably earning more. Yet the feeling is identical. The math at 2 in the morning is the same math. The anxiety has the same texture. The finish line you thought was right there has moved. It is the same distance away it has always been. You are running faster, and the horizon is not getting closer. You wonder if something is wrong with you. If you are broken. If you are the kind of person who will never be satisfied. If you are ungrateful. If you are bad with money. If everyone else figured out the thing you cannot figure out. I need you to hear something. Nothing is wrong with you. You are not broken. You are not ungrateful. You are not uniquely bad at managing money or happiness or life. What is happening to you has a name. It has been studied for over 50 years. It has been documented in hundreds of peer-reviewed papers across psychology, neuroscience, behavioral economics, and sociology. It is one of the most robust and replicated findings in the entire history of happiness research. It is called Hedonic Adaptation, and informally, the researchers who study it call it the Hedonic Treadmill. You are on a treadmill. You have been on it your entire adult life. You are running and running and running, and the belt beneath your feet is moving at exactly the speed you are moving, and you are not going anywhere. And the reason you feel exhausted is not because you are failing. It is because the machine was designed to keep you exactly where you are. Let me tell you about a woman named Priya. Priya is 34. She is a project manager at a mid-sized tech company in Austin. 4 years ago, she was making $52,000 a year, and she was stressed about money constantly. She told herself that if she could just get to $70,000, everything would be different. She hit $70,000 2 years ago. Within 6 months, she had moved to a nicer apartment, leased a newer car, and started buying lunch instead of packing it. Her savings rate did not change. Her stress level did not change. She told herself that 70 was not enough, that the real number was 80. She hit $85,000 8 months ago. She is now looking at condos she cannot quite afford, considering a car payment she does not quite need, and lying awake at 3 in the morning doing the same math she was doing at 52,000. Priya is not irresponsible. Priya is not a spender. Priya is a human being caught on a treadmill that she cannot see, and every time she speeds up, the belt speeds up with her. And the worst part is that Priya blames herself. She thinks the problem is discipline. The problem is not discipline. The problem is that her brain is functioning exactly as evolution designed it to function. And that design is being exploited by every system she interacts with. The hedonic treadmill was first described in 1971 by psychologists Philip Brickman and Donald Campbell in an essay called Hedonic Relativism and Planning the Good Society. Their core observation was deceptively simple. Human beings adapt to changes in their circumstances. Positive events produce a spike in happiness that fades over time. Negative events produce a drop in happiness that also fades over time. In both cases, the individual returns to a baseline level of subjective well-being that is remarkably stable across the lifespan. Brickman tested this idea in one of the most famous studies in the history of psychology. He compared the happiness levels of recent lottery winners with people who had recently become paraplegic. The finding stunned the field. Within a year of their respective events, the lottery winners were not significantly happier than the accident victims. The lottery winners had returned to approximately their pre-winning happiness baseline. The accident victims had returned to approximately their pre-accident baseline. The most extreme positive financial event imaginable and the most extreme negative physical event imaginable produced roughly the same long-term happiness outcome, which was a return to wherever you started. This finding has been replicated and refined dozens of times over the subsequent 5 decades. A landmark study by economists Andrew Clark, Ed Diener, Yanis, and Richard Lucas tracked thousands of individuals over 15 years and measured their life satisfaction before and after major income changes. They found that the happiness boost from an income increase lasts on average between 6 months and 2 years before the individual fully adapts and returns to baseline. The adaptation is not partial. It is nearly complete. A person who receives a 20% raise will report higher life satisfaction for roughly 12 to 18 months and then report satisfaction levels statistically indistinguishable from their pre-raise state. The money is still there. The lifestyle improvement is still there, but the happiness is gone. The brain has recalibrated. The new normal is now just normal. The neuroscience behind this is rooted in how the dopamine system works. Dopamine is not the pleasure chemical. That is a popular misconception. Dopamine is the anticipation chemical. It is the reward prediction signal. Your brain releases dopamine not when you receive a reward, but when you predict a reward is coming. And critically, the dopamine system operates on relative change, not absolute levels. When you get a raise, your brain registers the delta, the difference between what you had and what you now have. That delta produces a dopamine response. You feel good, but your brain immediately begins updating its prediction model. The new income level becomes the new expected baseline, and once the expectation matches reality, the dopamine signal drops to 0. Not because anything bad happened, because nothing surprising is happening anymore. Your brain has already priced in the raise. It is looking for the next delta, the next change, the next gap between expectation and reality. This is why the second month of a new salary feels less exciting than the first. Why the 6th month feels like nothing at all. Why by month 12 you are already thinking about the next raise. Your dopamine system is not malfunctioning. It is functioning exactly as designed. It is a difference engine. It only registers change, and the moment change becomes the status quo, it goes silent. There is a specific income threshold where this effect becomes particularly visible. In 2010, Kahneman and Kahneman-Deaton published a study using Gallup data from over 450,000 Americans. They found that emotional well-being, meaning day-to-day happiness, rises steadily with income, but plateaus at approximately $75,000 per year in 2010 dollars, which adjusts to roughly $95,000 to $105,000 in 2026 dollars. Below that threshold, more money genuinely buys more happiness because it alleviates the acute stressors of poverty, the inability to pay bills, the fear of eviction. Above that threshold, additional income produces almost no measurable improvement in day-to-day emotional experience. You can still feel richer. You can still feel successful, but you do not feel happier. The hedonic treadmill has fully engaged. You are running at full speed and the belt is matching you stride for stride. Matthew Killingsworth at Wharton published a follow-up study in 2021 that added nuance. He found that for some people, happiness does continue to rise with income above the 75,000 threshold, but the rate of increase is logarithmic, not linear. This means that going from 50,000 to 100,000 produces a large happiness gain. Going from 100,000 to 200,000 produces a much smaller gain. Going from 200,000 to 400,000 produces a gain so small it is barely detectable. Each doubling of income buys roughly the same tiny increment of additional happiness. To get the same emotional boost you felt going from 50 to 100, you would need to go from 100 to 200, and then from 200 to 400, and then from 400 to 800. The treadmill does not just keep pace with you. It accelerates. The faster you run, the faster it runs. And the diminishing returns mean that the amount of effort required to purchase the next unit of happiness doubles every time. Now, here is where this stops being a psychology lesson and starts being an economics lesson. Because the hedonic treadmill is not just a quirk of human neurology. It is the foundational operating principle of consumer capitalism. Every industry you interact with daily is engineered to exploit hedonic adaptation. Not accidentally. Deliberately. With research budgets and behavioral scientists and A/B tested algorithms designed to keep you on the treadmill and keep you running. The mechanism is called the aspirational gap. It is the distance between what you have and what you believe you should have. The hedonic treadmill resets your emotional baseline after every gain. The consumer economy ensures that your aspirational target moves upward at the same rate. You get a raise, and your brain adapts to the new income. Simultaneously, your social media feed shows you people living one tier above your new level. Your coworkers mention the neighborhood they just moved to. The algorithm serves you an ad for a car that is slightly better than yours. The subscription service introduces a premium tier. The brand you buy releases a new version. None of this feels like manipulation. All of it feels like awareness. Like you are simply noticing what is available. But what you're actually experiencing is a carefully engineered recalibration of your reference point. Your brain adapted to the raise and was about to reach equilibrium. The economy intervened and moved the target before you could arrive. Social comparison is the fuel that keeps the treadmill spinning. Leon Festinger established social comparison theory in 1954, showing that humans instinctively evaluate themselves by comparing to others. This was adaptive in small tribal groups, where your reference set was 20 or 30 people who lived roughly similar lives. It is catastrophic in a digital environment where your reference set is 8 billion people, filtered through an algorithm that preferentially surfaces the most aspirational, most enviable, most curated versions of human life. A study found that just 30 minutes of daily Instagram use significantly increases rates of social comparison, body dissatisfaction, and depressive symptoms. The mechanism is not envy in the classical sense. It is reference point inflation. Every image of someone's new kitchen, new car, new vacation, new wardrobe does not make you want that specific thing. It makes your brain update its model of what normal looks like. And when normal shifts upward, your current reality feels like it shifted downward. Even though nothing about your actual life changed, you did not lose anything. Your reference point gained something, and your brain cannot tell the difference. The housing market is perhaps the purest expression of the hedonic treadmill operating at systemic scale. The average new American home in 1970 was approximately 1,500 square feet. By 2025, it was approximately 2,400 square feet. American families got smaller during that period. The houses got 60% larger. The additional square footage did not produce a measurable increase in housing satisfaction. Studies consistently show that people in larger homes are not happier with their homes than people in smaller homes within the same income bracket. What happened is that the reference point shifted. 1,500 square feet used to be a normal house. Now, it is a small house. 2,400 square feet used to be a large house. Now it is a normal house. The treadmill moved. Everyone ran faster. Nobody arrived anywhere, but everyone is paying 60% more in mortgage costs, property taxes, utilities, maintenance, and furnishing expenses. To live in a house that feels exactly as adequate as the smaller house felt 50 years ago. The subscription economy is the treadmill made literal. The average American household now pays for between 7 and 12 recurring subscriptions, spanning streaming, music, fitness, news, software, meal kits, grooming products, and cloud storage. Each subscription was adopted during a moment of perceived need or desire. Each one produced a brief spike of satisfaction. Each one faded into the background of normal life within weeks. And each one continues to extract $15 to $20 per month, long after the happiness it produced has fully adapted to zero. The subscription model is not designed to make you happy. It is designed to capture the brief window of hedonic response and convert it into a recurring revenue stream that persists after the response is faded. You are paying for the memory of a feeling you no longer feel, multiplied across a dozen subscriptions. The average household spends between $100 and $200 per month on adapted pleasures that produce no current happiness, but would produce a brief spike of loss if cancelled. This is the treadmill's cruelest trick. It is easier to feel the pain of losing something than to notice the absence of pleasure from having it. So you keep paying, not because it makes you happy, because stopping would make you briefly unhappy, and your brain, already running at full cognitive load, cannot afford one more source of discomfort. The workplace itself is structured around the treadmill. Annual performance reviews with incremental raises are not designed to make employees happy. They are designed to produce a 12-month cycle of anticipation, brief reward, adaptation, and renewed anticipation. The raise is large enough to trigger a dopamine response, but small enough that the adaptation period is short and the employee is soon hungry for the next one. If companies gave employees their entire career earnings on day one, the hedonic treadmill would adapt once, and the motivational lever would be gone. By distributing raises incrementally over decades, the employer harvests the dopamine response of anticipation and reward over and over again, extracting maximum productivity from minimum compensation increases. You are not being paid for your work. You are being paid just enough, just often enough, to keep your dopamine system engaged and your legs moving on the belt. I'm not going to tell you to stop wanting things. That would be like telling you to stop breathing. The hedonic treadmill is not a character flaw you can fix with willpower. It is a neurological system that evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. And it is not going to be overridden by a YouTube video, but it can be understood. And understanding it changes everything. Because once you can see the treadmill, you can make choices about how fast you run, what direction you face, and whether you step off entirely in certain areas of your life. The first strategy is to redirect spending from material goods to experiences. This is not generic self-help advice. It is one of the most replicated findings in happiness research. Thomas Gilovich at Cornell has spent over 2 decades studying the difference between material and experiential purchases. His research consistently shows that people adapt more slowly to experiences than to objects. A new television produces a happiness spike that fades within weeks. A trip produces a happiness spike that fades more slowly and, critically, is reactivated every time you remember it, talk about it, or see photos of it. The reason is that experiences become part of your identity in a way that objects do not. You are not the person who owns a 65-inch television. You are the person who hiked the Appalachian Trail, who saw that concert in the rain, who took their kid to the ocean for the first time. Experiences resist adaptation because they are woven into the story you tell about who you are. Objects sit outside that story and fade into the background of normal. If you have $100 of discretionary income, the research is unambiguous. Spend it on doing something, not on owning something. The treadmill is slower in the experiential lane. The second strategy is to introduce intentional friction before lifestyle upgrades. The treadmill accelerates because lifestyle inflation happens automatically. You earn more and you spend more without ever making a conscious decision to do so. The antidote is to force a pause between the raise and the spending. When you receive an income increase, implement a 90-day hold. For 90 days, change nothing. Do not move. Do not upgrade. Do not subscribe. Live exactly as you lived before. The raise en route, 100% of the increase into savings or debt repayment. After 90 days, your brain will have partially adapted to the new income without the corresponding lifestyle inflation. You will have 3 months of evidence that you can live on your previous income, and any upgrade you